I've been role playing for 13 years now, and some of these stories are like pushing 10 years old. I'm in danger of completely forgetting them. I've already forgotten some of the details. Might just have to make some things up. But like currently I'm trying to remember the cast of characters that was in this one story that I want to tell, which is the first and only time that I've ever suffered a character death. The game was set in Faerun. I remember that much. So in the Forgotten Realms, in the north, near Icewind Dale and Luskan, Neverwinter, that sort of area. I mean, we were all sort of 14 or 15 at this point. And I remember there was, as the players, it was me, Teo, Shane, and Isaac, and like maybe two other people, but they didn't stick around every game. So I definitely don't remember them. And our GM, I remember, was Chris, who was like a lot older. He was, I don't know, 19 or something. And this was all at a like local games club. I distinctly remember certain aspects of my character, except her name. I remember that she was a priestess of Oral, the party's cleric. And the reason I remember that is because she was like a direct reference to another character in the video game Icewind Dale, who I've just looked up, was called Lysan. Teo was playing a thief elf, possibly a drow elf, called Falan, who was his OC that he like always played in almost every game. Definitely not Dristuarden. Shane and Isaac, I don't remember what they were playing. I think they were both playing fighters. I think Isaac was full fighter and Shane was like a fighter wizard, half and half. And we were playing on, Chris was running the game on like epic level 6 rules, which is a thing that I think got started in 3rd edition. I don't know if it's actually carried over to 5th edition. But it basically means that once you hit 6th level, you're basically treated as a epic level character at 6th level. I don't know whether you'd call it toned down fantasy, but it basically means that like 6 is the soft level cap, and then you can still get experience after that, but you don't spend it on leveling up. You only spend it on buying new spells and getting feats and attribute increases and stuff like that. So we were basically like, the premise of the campaign was we started at level 1. We all started in a tavern. Yeah, I my memory of the early sessions is very, very poor. But I remember like it started off pretty normal. 15-year-olds murder hoboing like the townsfolk. Just normal evil campaign level stuff. And we went on a number of dungeon crawls, I think, until we were basically level 6, like max level. And that probably took the better part of a year of regular sessioning, maybe less than a year to get to level 6, but still. We basically got caught up in a war. Like, there was a bunch of mind flayers that wanted to wage war on a part of Icewind Dale and like come up from the Underdeep with an army, like some alliance that had happened, and then they were gonna like invade Icewind Dale. And there was like an opposing force, I think it was the forces of Luskan, mounted against us. So it must have been just south of Icewind Dale, actually. I think it took 3 sessions. We had 3 sessions consecutively that was just war game level D&D, because we were all war gamers as well. So we got out like some of our Warhammer Fantasy miniatures. We did half and half of like, I don't know how the hell Chris handled it, but half was doing tactical stuff at like a sort of RTS level, moving like units around. And then every time the units collided, if there was a hero or a PC in the group that was colliding with another group, we'd like zoom down in and play out that combat encounter. Oh, what did we have? Like, so we were with a load of mind flayers, and the mind flayers had loads of like thralls and other evil stuff. I think this is something from Spelljammer originally, but like Chris just plucked it out because it's cool. Like the mind flayers have these like flying Nautilus ships with tentacles coming out of them, and they're like these giant psychic living ships that float around. And so they were like going around the battlefield just lasering entire units. I think the other side had a couple dragons, like a couple metallic dragons, so the good guy dragons. Like this was a pretty like giant scale epic battle. I think at the end of the sort of third session of doing this giant combat scenario, we had to kind of call it a draw. Like both sides had lost enough forces and whatever that the open combat kind of backed away and people sort of went back to their fortresses and so on to like recoup their losses. And it was at that point when we kind of decided, okay, well, it's probably going to take a couple weeks for our allies to restock and so on. So we've got some time to kill before we try again at taking Luskan. And so we decided to go off on another adventure, like a side adventure, to go and find some powerful artifacts that would help us win the war. We basically start like heading in a direction. I think we went further into Icewind Dale at that point, like crossing the spine of the world into East Haven and Kaldahar and that sort of area. I don't know how the hell I'm remembering this now, but it's all rushing back. Yeah, so we found this ancient crypt. I think it was like full of ghosts, frozen ghosts, and we'd like followed some rumors that this was a place where we could find some kind of MacGuffin that would help turn the tide of the war. I don't remember how long we were in that dungeon for, but it was at least 2 sessions, and I think we were only about halfway through when we basically came to a section of the dungeon that was 3 consecutive rooms with a small, like a bottleneck between each one. Chris, up until this point in the campaign, has been fairly light with his traps in previous dungeons that we've been through. And it had been like several months since we did like a proper dungeon crawl. I think it was like at one of the bottlenecks, basically, there was a trapdoor. Everybody else went through this bottleneck into the next room to fight the people in the next room, and then as I came in behind them, the enemies in the next room over sort of caught line of sight of me crossing through this bottleneck. They like pulled on a lever, and I don't think it was quite save or die. It was like make a reflexes save to avoid this trap, to avoid falling into the pit, which I failed. And then I fell basically into a pit of acid. Yeah, like nobody in the party was able to react quick enough, like because we were still in combat time as well, and this acid was doing X amount of damage per round. And I'm the goddamn cleric, and I'm drowning in a pit of acid, and I just die. And like, kind of up until this point in the campaign, I think people have been like knocked down to 0 before, but never my character. And because I was the cleric, I was always able to help them back up. But not this time. Not this time. Just Chris describes in like riveting graphic detail how my beloved character just like has all of the flesh on her body melt into this bubbling pool of acid, and there's nothing that me or the rest of the party can do to stop it. At this point in my D&D life, none of my characters have ever died in like 3 or 4 years worth of playing D&D regularly, and I was like super attached to this character. And so when she died, it like took me so off guard that I think I just like got up and like left the room. Definitely not crying. Anyway, so I've been thinking about this story for a couple days now, and I'm still really just trying to work out what the moral is, if any. And I guess the really probably the really sad thing about this story is that I don't I don't think we finished that campaign afterwards. Perhaps I didn't even realize that making a new character was even an option. That, like, I was dead and that was it, and, like, the campaign would have to go on without me now. But everybody else was like, we just lost our cleric. We're screwed. I don't think that the game carried on after that. So, like, we never found the artifact. We never won the war. Yeah, I think the real shame there is that GM Chris screwed over his entire running campaign by, like, accidentally killing off a player character. And I don't know. I suppose it's partly my fault as well for not being, like, emotionally intelligent enough to, like, handle the whole scenario. But, like, so yeah, that was my story about my first character death in D&D. If you've got similar stories, then I would love to hear about them in the comments below. And I'd also love to hear some feedback on this kind of video. I've not made anything like this before, and I'm trying out a few new things, including several art styles. So let me know which parts of this video were your favorite. And if you happen to have a friend or two whom you think would get a kick out of something like this, then send them a link. Anyway, that's it, that's all. I'm Sir Arn, and thanks for watching.